Antarctic Journal, Science Magazine, Geological Professional Paper, Geological Professional Paper, Natural History. I don't have a quote for that one. The picture is from Reader's Digest. The quote is not. I keep track of where I get my pictures from. Okay? I try to document everything just so this type of thing doesn't happen. I never said any of these quotes are from Reader's Digest.
Question concerning spontaneous generation.
I know, but see, I got to go back and defend myself, or he's going to go and tell everybody I believe Superman makes diamonds. Okay? The picture was from Reader's Digest. Spontaneous generation doesn't happen. Evolutionists have to believe in it. He has no other choice. Because he doesn't want God telling him what to do, I think, is the problem.
This question for you. What mechanism limits microevolution to keep it from working on a macroevolutionary level?
What mechanism limits microevolution? Well, the Bible clearly says the animals will bring forth after their kind. The kinds, apparently, those that originally were able to bring forth, reproduce. Now, they may have diversified to the point where they don't normally reproduce. Lions and tigers don't normally breed, but they might have got a common ancestor. They have been bred in captivity. A liger and a tiger have been produced, depending which one is the father or the mother. Even a dolphin and a whale, killer whale, were crossed, and they got a whalpin. One of the zoo, I think San Diego Zoo or Hawaii Zoo, so one of them had the... Anyway, I think the mechanism is a genetic code that simply prevents them from crossing. For instance, humans have 46 chromosomes, chimpanzees have 48. So does tobacco, by the way, it has 48. That proves tobacco and chimpanzees are identical twins. I know many people are going to say I believe that. I'm making a joke, folks, okay? I don't believe that. I think if you read in my seminar notebook, I've got a chart showing the chromosome numbers of different various animals. It's kind of a spoof on evolution, showing that it doesn't follow the predicted pattern. I think there is probably a DNA mechanism that prevents this crossing of different kinds. That's designed into it. God said to bring forth after their kind. There's never been an exception to that.
It's interesting that creationists will keep coming up with the word kind, which is not a biological term of any sort. Anytime that I ask the creationist to define exactly what does he mean by kind, I don't get an answer. How many kinds were of Noah's Ark, for example? Want to guess?
Probably about 10,000, I guess.
10,000. If that is true, from 10,000 kinds we got the 7 million species of organisms that are living today on Earth, you believe in a heck of a lot more evolution than I do. The distinction between micro and macroevolution is artificial. There is no distinction in the biological theory between micro and macroevolution. Macroevolution is simply microevolution writ large over a very long period of time. There is no difference that anybody can figure out, and I still haven't had a creationist be able to tell me what the difference actually is. Next question.
If evolution is right, what is the purpose of life?
I don't know. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a philosopher. Well, I'm studying to become a philosopher. So maybe 4 years down the road I might give you some hint to that. I have no idea what the meaning of life is. And if you think you have an idea of what the meaning of life is, great. My personal preferable and preferred answer is the movie from Monty Python. That's where I get my opinion. That is a joke. I don't know that biologists are now in the business of giving the meaning of life. The meaning of life is a very serious thing that every single one of us has to look for by himself or herself. And if you want to do it within a religious framework, it's great. If you can find the meaning of life within that framework, I have no problem whatsoever. That doesn't have anything to do with evolutionary biologists. Evolutionary biologists, contrary to what Christians think, don't go around teaching atheism and don't go around teaching the meaning of life. You've got nothing to do with it.
To me, it'd be a moot question because evolution isn't right. So you said if evolution is right, what's the meaning of life? Evolution isn't right, so the question is meaningless. I think there certainly is a meaning to life. I think God designed us to have fellowship with Him. I think we were made in His image, and then today, like an old coin in your pocket gets worn out, you can hardly see the image anymore. I think our image is a little, worn out compared to what it used to be. Some folks really don't resemble God at all. But that was, we were originally made in His image, and He designed us to have fellowship with Him. And I'd be glad to introduce you to Him afterwards if you'd like.
Dr. Hope, what is the difference between empirical science and origin science?
Empirical science deals with things that we can observe or test or measure or weigh. With the word empiricism, I believe you can look it up in a dictionary. I don't have that with me now. But origins really is outside the realm of science. It goes into the metaphysical. You have to believe in certain things. It's not observable or testable. You can't measure it or weigh it or prove it in a laboratory. So origins really has nothing to do with science. It should not be involved in any science classes. They should be in religion classes. There are various theories, religious theories of how the world got here. But that has nothing to do with science. So it's a shame that origins is mixed with science so much. You know, beer is often sold at football games. Beer has nothing to do with football. And origins is often put into science class, but origins is not part of science. You can tell the kids, here's the biceps, the triceps, the deltoid, the flexors, the extenders, the radius, the ulna. And the kid says, how did we get here? We don't know. Let's just learn for the test. You don't have to get into origins because you're going to offend somebody. If you teach evolution, somebody's going to be offended. How many of you are offended when they teach evolution? Okay? If they taught creation in the schools, somebody would be offended. How many of you would be offended if they taught creation in the schools? See? It's a subject you can't please everybody, so leave it up to schools.
How about if you have anything else about education in the school? That would make a lot of people very happy. The question was the origin. Right, it's the brain origin. That distinction that Islam has just proposed is actually a fairly naive distinction from the point of view of science. Science doesn't work in such a simple way. There are certain limits to what science can do, by all means, there's no question about it. But some of the origin questions do fall within the limits of science. Let me give you an example. You said, well, if you can't test it empirically, if you can't do experiments on it, then it's not science. Well, by that let me give you an analogy. By the same kind of reasoning, you would never be able to tell who murdered somebody else looking at the clues, because you were not there, you did not see it, there is no experiment, you can do it, you cannot replicate it, you cannot do anything else about it. Except, you can look at fingerprints, you can look at DNA evidence, you can look at the circumstances of the crime, you can look at where the person is suspected to do the crime actually was at that time, and so on and so forth. That is, forensic science works by clues, by indirect clues that lead to reasonable conclusions beyond reasonable doubt. That's exactly the same way in which science works.
Dr. Kaluch, can you tell us when or how plants evolve from animals, or vice versa, i.e., when did an animal or a plant give birth to the other type?
Okay. No, plants did not evolve from animals. The closest group to animals, phylogenetically speaking, that is in the history of life, is actually fungi. That's not to say that a fungus all of a sudden became a mammal. That's the way of a simplistic way of putting it. It's just that they share a very distant ancestor. As far as the when, I think the best estimate that we have at this point is about 1 billion years or 800 million years ago. Less than 1 million years ago. Now, when you think of animal in that sense, as I said, you don't think of a mammal, you don't think of an animal with skeleton even, you don't think of a worm even. It's what's way too complicated. What you're thinking of, you should be thinking of, are cells, which are structures, unicellular organisms, which are structured one way or the other. The unicellular organisms that gave origin eventually to the animal lineage share a most common ancestor with the same organisms, unicellular organisms that gave origin to fungi. That is not to say that fungi all of a sudden translate into human beings or bananas into mammals or things of that sort.
Okay, repeat the question, please.
Can you tell us when or how plants evolve from animals or vice versa?
When or how plants evolve from animals or vice versa? Well, it didn't happen. God made the plants on day 3, he made the animals on day 6. He designed them for their